Yesterday, the Trump CDC said that vaccines are not safe. I'm a scientist, and the Trumpers at the CDC get scientific truth all wrong, and they do it in a way that we need to be aware of. This is realistic optimism, and I'm Mark Heisted. So, what did the Trump CDC say? They said that studies don't show that vaccines do not cause autism. They said that studies have not ruled out the possibility. And that is just BS. It's fundamentally misunderstanding how science works. The scientific method does not prove negatives. Studies do not generally prove negatives. And let's say this here. This stuff is terrible. It is sentencing kids to death. Vaccines are probably the most wondrous disease cure that has ever been developed in history. Vaccines keep you safe. And we should also say on RFK, he has been making money by suing vaccine companies for years. He makes money from lying about vaccines. That makes him corrupt, and it means he has huge conflicts of interest. Okay, so getting back to the CDC statement, studies have not ruled out the possibility. Two things here. First, science does not prove negatives. What does that mean? Studies do not prove that Martians do not exist. Studies have looked for evidence of little green men on Mars and have not found that evidence. So by the RFK junk science standard, we haven't proved that little green men don't exist on Mars. And bigger though, this Trump CDC statement gets the nature of scientific truth all wrong. Truth in science comes from the consensus of the scientific community. We do say, we believe, science believes that there are no little green aliens on Mars. And so how do we come to that truth? Well, studies have looked for evidence of Martians. They don't find any. And then scientists, the scientific community, looks at that evidence. Scientists discuss with each other and agree there are no Martians. That's how truth in science is developed and conveyed. And it's the same with smoking years ago. Studies showed that smoking caused cancer. Corporations tried to deny it, but at some point, scientific consensus, 95+% of scientists decided that they'd seen enough that smoking causes cancer. Same thing with human-caused climate change. We know it's human-caused because the vast majority of scientists agree. And worth noting, this is why autocrats hate scientists, because we are mediators of truth. We are one mediator of truth in society. We can push back on the lies of the powerful. And that, by the way, is a big reason that they are now coming after NIH and NSF. Okay, and so that takes us to the Trump CDC move on vaccines. They're not actually trying to prove anything. They're not trying to do real science. What they are trying to do is sow doubt. It's what's called the Merchants of Doubt strategy. And I recommend, there's a great book to read on the Merchants of Doubt strategy. So what is it? Because scientific truth is conveyed by the consensus, effectively, of the scientific community, if the powerful can make it look like there's not consensus in the scientific community, they can change what appears to be true. And so that's what many billionaires and corporations do and have done when they want to deny science for political advantage or for personal enrichment. They find ways to sow doubt. And one way to do that is to find people with plausible credentials. I don't know, professor at Stanford, who are willing to say what science deniers want. And then billionaires use their money to plaster those people, these merchants of doubt, all over the media. And that's what's happened with the COVID vaccine. And when they control the federal government, they jam junk scientists into roles in government and use that to sow doubt. And that's really what's happening here with the Trump CDC under RFK. So what can we do to push back? First, we have to see through the Merchants of Doubt strategy and call it out. That means ignoring junk scientists who have been elevated by right-wing money. Ignore scientists who have been elevated by Trump. Call them frauds. Or at least note that they're getting a platform because of right-wing money with an agenda. And I would say in the long run, as we build back here, we are going to need our democratic institutions to verify and transmit scientific consensus. We've got to stop being afraid of saying that quacks and fringe voices don't represent the scientific community. We need to use our free speech to do that, to call junk scientists quacks. We've got to stop being afraid of calling people merchants of doubt, pointing out who the merchants of doubt are. And that's not personal. Conveying consensus is required to protect scientific truth. And I don't claim to cover every aspect of epistemology, but I will recommend there's some great practical articles about what it means in our current context and what it means in context of science. And one of them is here. Um, Encourage people to read this if they'd like to learn more.